Go. Take me out.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Scots and Socks. See if I can get it right this time. I'm Scott and he's Scott. Oh, I got it right. How about that? And look, today we're going to talk about acknowledgement and respect as kind of a first step in empathy. And I think, the program that Scott runs really doesn't just embody this, it is this acknowledgement and respect. And the Socks program you're going to hear a little bit about from Scotty. But also, we had a great opportunity this week, Scott and I. We have many things in common, but one thing in common that I didn't know about until a little later was that we both are mad baseball fans. And Scotty came and played in my Masters team. Oh, wrong way. That's him in the red hat, kind of out of uniform, playing in our Masters team. And he had an opportunity to play against guys that really helped him out when he was a kid. And it was a really lovely night on Monday night. And yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that. Scotty Carson, welcome.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the
You idiot.
How cool was Monday night, right? And
yeah, it was really good, huh?
For me, it's an opportunity to connect and thank people that had a significant part in my life over an extensive period, and also a tough period. And I think that was a big thing for me. I don't think, I know it was, because I got the opportunity to say thank you, and this is what actually happened. This is where I am now, and I'm very grateful, to be here having a conversation and playing a game of baseball with you.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
The team, just incidentally, Scotty thinks he's going to be a part-time lover, but the team have got other ideas. Pretty handy out there at shortstop and on the mound on Monday night. It was a very unfashionable or unusual Masters game in the sense that there was only one hit score from either team, and it was a 1-0 ball game, so it was a tight affair. Unfortunately, we lost, but but it was a good night all round. And I think that's a nice segue into, what I saw Scott do on Monday night was acknowledge the individuals and the club that got around him as a kid when he got picked for Victoria, and made sure that he got away on that trip to represent his state. And I think, it was just a great opportunity for Scott, but also a great opportunity for me to see the reactions of people that were part of that journey for Scott. And, that's kind of a segue into the Socks program. And we call this Scots and Socks for a reason. I don't know whether we've been abundantly clear. We've mentioned it here and there. And when I first met Scott, I really didn't get it. I really didn't understand what the deal was about handing people a pair of socks and thanking them for doing their best right now. And I've been out in the streets in Frankston at Christmas time last year, handing out socks to random individuals of all walks of life, or stumbles, as the case may be. And one of the things that really got me is that the instant gratification you get from participating in this as a gifter of a pair of socks. And, I work in the social sector around vulnerable people at a very macro level, but to actually see the smiles on people's faces, the fact that just acknowledging them and paying them some respect and giving them some time, many of whom who want to tell their story, want to be heard, and holding that space for them is just like the joy that they get out of that is something that I've observed. So I'd like Scott to open up and just explain not only what the program is, but where the idea came from and the impact it's having on people, and what the vision is for the Socks program, which I personally would like to see come into a movement. I'd like to see any of you guys listening to be part of this program. It's a pay it forward program. It's a pay it forward program where we're gifting a pair of socks to people, but actually we're gifting them our time, our acknowledgement, and our respect. And that's the most important thing. And the socks are merely a tool to do that with. So, Scotty Carson, take it away.
Thank you, Scotty. There's a lot in that. As you're talking, I'm unpacking it in my head. Just what it's all about, right? Because a pair of socks, how does it make a difference, really? Well, it's actually just a tool to be able to create connection. And the biggest part of the connection, oh, we actually got them on top of the screen, Scotty. We don't even need to do that.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's,
That's true.
well, don't worry, I was about to do the same. So, but the thing about the socks is that when we gift them, it's actually a great personal development opportunity, because we've lost our connection to society, in my eyes. And to reconnect with people we've never met before is something pretty special. And it can also be really daunting, especially when the first thing you say to somebody is, I just want to thank you for doing your best right now. That's a big thing, yeah? Like, to actually just walk up to someone and just say, thank you for doing your best right now. That's an internal journey that you're projecting on somebody else, because that question asks a deeper question. Am I doing my best right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's there to say, like, let's have a real conversation right here, because with that ability to be able to thank somebody from here. When's the last time someone thanked you from their heart, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's true. It's something that, it doesn't happen, I guess, very often. I think, in business, we're taught to extract maximum value from people. And I've certainly fallen foul of that. My willingness to be of service to people, or people pleasing, if you like, has made me fall foul of some, people taking me for granted, I suppose. So I've had quite the opposite experience. When someone coming up and just thanking you for being you, and thinking you're having a crack, is the most unusual experience. And I think, unfortunately, it's also a most unusual experience in relationships. It's the most unusual experience at home. When was the last time you told your partner how much you you really value them, and you want to acknowledge how much work they're putting in and how hard they're trying? And when was the last time you offered that sort of leg up, that bit of encouragement? And I think it's missing everywhere. Yeah. And as time goes on, and as the statistics reveal, more than a third of us live on our own. And, when you just think about that for a minute, people in single person dwellings, getting over the 30% mark, which was forecasted many years ago. And think about what life's like for those people, and why, in fact, we see the pet pandemic is just like huge. Yeah. So pets have become the replaceable humans in a lot of households, because, we're living alone. And so where's that connection? And so increasingly contextual matters of, the economy and the way life is, the way relationships are forcing us to be more and more isolated and disconnected. So, this is one of the great things I love about this program. I personally, I found it really fascinating. Like, the people that were most, some might say downtrodden, but the people who are really struggling, and I've done it ever since I did that thing with Scotty. I stop and speak to a homeless person every chance I get, just to say, hey, how you doing? And what are you trying to do right now? And you'd be surprised, I think a lot of us just brush past a homeless person and go, oh, Jesus, go and get a job, mate. But it's not, life's not like that. And if you actually stop and speak to these people, you'll find, and I have found, they're all over it. They know exactly what they've got to do, and they're struggling with the bureaucracy and red tape to get there. And they're people who have fallen, had a sequence of things happen, some of which was in their control, some of which was not. And they're doing the best they can to deal with it. And, I think once we stop and realize that we're all human and we all deserve acknowledgement and respect, that's been a game changer for me, man. And I think even in recent podcasts, you've heard me talk about, what do we call these, video podcasts, whatever. You've heard me talk about, charities saying, oh, it's a shame that people don't engage us because they're ashamed or they're afraid or whatever. And I'm like, whose job is it to make your services engageable? Is it theirs? And indirectly and unconsciously, we're actually victim blaming when in fact the intention is to help people who are in trouble. So, again, I find this SOX program cuts right through and gives people that acknowledgement and respect. Not for me, Scott. It's your program. Let's talk about it.
And I love this, right? Because I'm just listening. I'm trying to understand, like as much as we talk, you and I talk daily, right? And we talk about what we're going to talk about here. Our hearts get in the way. Our hearts get in the way of what we're going to talk about today because, we've got the availability for people to comment. And I love that, Beck. Thank you, Beck, for turning up. Because that's life, right? There's parts of us that come up, and I want to embrace that because our stories change as we meet new people, as we get new information. And that's very relevant to this because I personally think we're at the most extraordinary time ever in the human experience, right? We're learning the impact that we're really having on one another. We're learning that the understanding of what abundance has created. An abundant world is created, possibly a little bit more division, possibly a little bit more disconnection to what's inside, right? And I think that's an awesome thing. The fact that we've got 30% of the population living on their own clearly means that we need to do things differently. One of the things for me that with all relationships, like tying it back to relationships, is how many people have actually gone into a relationship with somebody consciously, actually sat down and worked out what it is they want out of that relationship, what it is that they can bring to a relationship. What are my strengths? What's my love language? How is it I need to be loved in order to create that great connection? I think right now, to be a human is extraordinary. I think it's an opportunity that we understand emotional situations so much better than we've ever understood them. But like anything, growth comes from getting dirty in the soil. It comes from putting in new nutrients and feeding that. So how does that relate to a pair of socks? Right.
Well, I mean, I want to jump in there too and say that this great wave of self-interest we have to be acutely aware of. Working in the social services sector during the pandemic was an absolute eye-opener for me. It was stunning, actually. Towards the end of 2020, I had a bit of a mouthpiece. We had a workshop or a webinar. We had a lot of people rock up to that webinar from the social sector. And I was suddenly a spokesperson about vulnerability in Australia on the 730 report. And I had a lot of inquiries in business about, what these charities and services could do better up till Christmas. And then post-January, where lockdowns were being pulled back, interest just disappeared. Until around May, June of 2021, when we got locked down again. And I was stunned by this. And effectively, this strong self-interest was that nothing bad was happening unless it was affecting me. Yeah, that's the truth of it. Because as soon as those lockdowns happened again, I was busier than 10 men. Right. And I thought, that's stunning. Like, did you think that no one was food insecure or vulnerable during that period of time between January and but clearly this, we live in this world of self-interest where we don't understand. And even clearing the supermarket shelves, let me tell you, that the most affluent suburbs were the greatest offenders of hoarding, not only because they had the financial capacity, because they didn't give a crap about anyone else. Right? I shouldn't use crap. We're talking about toilet paper. But anyway, I think we have this stunning level of self-interest and disconnection, and it's the currency of today's life. And I think what Scott's trying to do with this program is upend that. And it is an amazing opportunity, and it is an amazing opportunity to acknowledge people, to give them a level of respect, and hear their stories and hold some space for them. It is that simple. It really is that simple. And right now, we've just had the 2023 hunger report come out from Food Bank this week, and you're seeing food insecurity happen in spaces and in demographies and in socioeconomic groups that has never happened before. 77% of people that have experienced food insecurity in the last 12 months did so for the very first time ever. Yeah. Right? 77% of households, excuse me. for the very first time ever. So this incredible, intense increase in cost of living is affecting a really broad array of the community right now. And so vulnerability and being there for other people in connection surely must flow from having that lived experience of struggle.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to tie this back to the conversation at baseball. I had two conversations that really made me think. Now, one of the things for me that my connection with people through socks is wonderful. I create heartfelt connection. And before I go down this rabbit warren, I just want to quickly share something about the socks that's super, super important. So often we know people in life that are struggling. We know people that are having a tough time with things, but we don't know how to connect to them. We don't know what to say. We don't know how to just engage them and bring them into the conversation and create safety for them. The socks allow you to say, hey, I just want to thank you for doing your best right now.
Mm-hmm.
Gifting a pair of socks, and the message on the socks clearly states what's going on, and you're sharing the empathy. Wear these socks with a smile. The black dots represent our dark days. We all have them. No one's getting out of that. The yellow is a warm winter sun. You feel on your back on those gorgeous sunny winter's days. So on our dark days, let the warmth of our community get around you. Share these days so that we can learn and support each other. The easiest way to do that is by putting these on with pride and sharing the story of them so you can pass on the smile you felt when you received them. Let's infect the world with smiles. That's not an accident. We're saying to you, we all have dark days, and I'm here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Being present after doing that, after gifting that to somebody, is where the magic happens.
Absolutely.
We don't have to fix people all the time. Sometimes people just need to be sat with. Yeah. And I just on Monday night, if you can bend over to the side, Scotty.
Oh, which way, man?
But you'll see the socks. Every single guy.
Oh, yeah, true. Let me get out of the way.
Yeah. So every single guy put the socks on because there was a heartfelt connection that I'd never met any of these guys. You know, I'd only met Scotty, and every single guy put those socks on with pride. And I just gifted them, and they chose to put them on before the game, which was just wonderful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And he's maybe I'm crazy, right? But maybe.
Oh, no, you're definitely right.
Not maybe. Let's be honest, right? So just picture this, right? Picture getting off the train. You've been at work all day, and you got the world of work sitting on your shoulders. You get off the train. There's a guy there doing it really tough, sitting on the side. He's got a yellow pair of socks with black dots on them, sitting there. You can see them clearly.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a pair of socks that are yellow with black dots on them. You know what the meaning is.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of looking down at that person, you smile because you know what the meaning of those socks is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Creating connection. All we need to do to make a little bit of difference to somebody's day that could mean the world is just gift them a smile. Yeah.
And it's funny what you're talking about, Scotty, and this is one of the drivers of why we called this show what we call it. You talked about just holding space and listening to people, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And all too often, we go into solution modality and we start projecting our own experiences on other people. And we assume that we know what they're going through or how to deal with it. And I've certainly had some personal battles the last 12 months where I knew full well that people that were trying to help me had no idea what I was going through. And, there's distance in that. But if people are able to stop and listen and hold space for how that person's feeling, that's empathy. Yeah. Saying, yeah, that sucks. I'm really sorry about that. That must be really hard. You know, I don't know. We've got to reach in and connect and hold space and listen, because everything's relative. You know, I had so many examples of this where people have said to me, I just don't feel like my story is compelling enough, or like I've done it as hard. You know, and I could take that view, right? You know, I've had some struggles as a kid, but you know, I didn't experience homelessness like you did, Scott. And you know, so into that vein, I don't have a lived experience, but all pain is relative, right? And it's all relative to my life and your life. And sure, you know, on face value, they were different, and perhaps yours is more extreme. But the emotion that I carry from my experience is maybe no less heavy than yours is. And so we have to pay some homage to that, you know, and realize that projecting and comparing, that ain't empathy.
Comparison's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Ownership's dangerous. And the reason why, it's we live in such a complex world. You know, like I'm going to share a quick story, and I want to try and tie it in. But I was at a function and I was watching this guy, and I love watching people and how they move and how they connect with others, because I learn a lot in that. And this guy was really struggling to connect with people, and you can see him trying to engage and then step back, and then try and engage and he stepped back. And I got curious, me being me. So I walked over and said, "G'day, mate, how are you?" He goes, "Yeah, good." I said, "Just curious, accountant or engineer?" He goes, "What?" I said, "You're an accountant or an engineer?" He goes, "I'm an engineer." He goes, "Why?" I said, "I'm watching you you try to engage and then disengage." I said, "You've got some real specificity in you, and you're just not quite sure how to talk."
Mhm.
Yeah. Ah. I said, "Just out of curiosity, what do you do?" He goes, "Oh, actually, I make pressure points, like for the crash test dummies." I said, "That's
Mhm.
really cool." I said, "So you get to understand, what the pressure is in different impacts." He goes, "Yeah, I love it." So, "What's your passion program?" And his eyes lit up, right? And he goes, "Well, actually, what I really love is that we've got a project where we actually put these pressure points on a concrete truck so that
Mhm.
we know how much pressure is on the wheels and on the tires, so that we can identify um, where the barrel sits and when it needs to be cleaned." Because
Mhm.
with a concrete truck, if you have any more than 200 kilos of excess dry concrete inside the barrel, what it does is the wet concrete clings to that. So back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you used to hear concrete trucks rolling over regularly.
Mhm.
That was often because of this circumstance. So he came up with his team this pressure point system, and the specificity and placement of these little tiny little whatever they pressure point things was just phenomenal. Now he loved it. How many
Mhm.
people are genuinely interested in a little pressure point on a truck that stops it from rolling over?
You lost me about 3 minutes ago.
I know, right? I
Yeah, I'm
know,
like,
right?
what?
But for me, it was such a beautiful thing, because I was in construction, I understand concrete,
Yeah.
but he couldn't talk to anybody about that in the room. But when I had the opportunity to sit and listen and hear him and understand his passion and his life, the joy, the connection, like, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
But that being said, we live in a world, and we live in a world of specificity.
Mhm.
We live in a world of we need to tick these boxes consistently in order to create success. I think reality, we need to redetermine success. I think we really need to look at what success is as a whole, right? Because if I look at our society and the way in which we're engaging, like, why are we still going to war? Why are we
Mhm.
still doing these things? Why is that a necessity in an age of, better communication, better understanding. What is the point to these things? We're all human. Yeah.
Mhm.
We're all human. Take away your skin. We're all just bones, muscles, and blood, right? And little fiber optics that run around our body and tell our brain what to do. But if we focus on the humanness, we will be more connected. And I'm actually genuinely excited about it, Scotty. I'm genuinely excited about being more human. I'm genuinely excited that we went through this opportunity called COVID that went, oh, this does not feel comfortable.
Mhm.
What do I need to learn about us? Yeah. Pair of socks. Yeah. If you and your team want to do some personal development, come and walk the streets with me, thanking people for doing their best.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it brings up everything in you. It shows you how you project onto the world. I'll never forget going for a walk with a beautiful man, and he actually works for the mental health department for Vic Gov, and
Mhm.
he's an Indian fella, beautiful man, and we're sitting down talking, and we went out, and I said to him when we were talking, I said, listen, that time of day has come. He goes, yeah, I've been dreading this. We're going for a walk. He goes, yeah, I know. So I gave him a couple of pairs of socks, and we went out and tried to connect. Peak hour in Melbourne, right?
Mhm.
And more office people than anything.
Mhm.
And I'm out there and I'm doing my thing. I've taught
Yep.
him, say thank you for doing your best right now. Is it okay if I gift you a pair of socks? Ask permission before we project something. Ask permission to do it.
Yes.
And then if they say yes, hand them the socks. If they say no, say thank you. Have a fantastic day. Give people the choice of whether or not they want to engage, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
He walked up to 10 different people, right? He could not get a pair of socks out of his hands,
Mhm.
right? We stopped and we talked about it. And I actually did a live with him, and he goes, I think it's because I'm a brown man. And I said, no, that's not what it is. I said, you're accepted. It's your projection. You're walking up, holding a pair of socks, putting them out in front of you.
Yeah. Okay.
Your energy is saying, take these, take these. I don't want them, take them. Like, this is too hard for me. Take this.
Mhm.
So I said, talk to him. I said, put them in your pocket. Walk up to somebody and just say, thank you for doing your best with a smile.
Mhm.
Then ask slowly, is it okay if I gift you something? The very next person did. He's walked up. He goes, just want to thank you for doing your best right now. Oh, really? What's that about? He goes, oh, it's just I'm thanking people for doing their best. He goes, oh, cool. He goes, can I gift you a pair of socks? He goes, really? He goes, yeah. Hands them over. Then he shared this. We always ask permission. Is it okay to share the story of the socks? Black dots represent our dark days. We all have them, but there is more sunshine. There is dark days. Sometimes we just need a reminder. At that point, the guy just went, oh, actually, I'm having a really hard time. This guy at that point then went, oh, now I got to listen. What
Yeah.
do I do
Yeah.
here? And so I got the
Mhm.
opportunity to step in and I just listened. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So is there anything else we can do today? You guys really, honestly, a pair of socks? It's made the difference. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Cool.
So if you
I think this
want,
is super important for people to understand the nuance of this because, I certainly struggled approaching people,
yeah,
and I don't think I come across like an introvert at all. But I certainly struggled approaching people. I felt I was more comfortable talking to homeless people or people that were clearly on meth, who were troubled than I did about speaking to some housewife walking out of a shopping center. Um, I didn't have any trouble with the homeless guy or the guy on meth. I had trouble with the everyday person, who was like, "Oh, you're trying to sell me something, or whatever." And I was like, "Oh no, this is awkward." So I had more trouble with people like that. And in terms of engagement, just stopping and listening to the homeless guy or the guy on drugs or whatever, that was such a gift for them. But I think it'd be really interesting to hear from other people. And guys, you don't know until you've done it. So I'd encourage you all to jump on the Business of Smiles and grab a pair of socks and have a go at this, right? Have a go at it, because it's super important. The socks are $20. Half of the proceeds go to another pair of socks. And the other half pay for the socks you got, right? We make absolutely no money out of it. It's a pay it forward program. And so go to the businessofsmiles.com.au. Is that right?
I hope you are smiling. I hope you are
I hope you are smiling.
Yeah, I hope you are smiling.com.au.
Yes.
So can I grab that for a second, Scotty?
Yeah.
I said, because my mission will only continue if I'm given the opportunity to speak. If you really want to connect your company and your team, pay me to speak to them. Pay me to give your team members 2 pairs of socks, one for themselves and one for someone that they know needs a smile. If you want to work on the personal development side of things on an internal level, that's a whole nother conversation. And I'll be more than happy to take your team out in the streets and connect with the community, because you'll be surprised what it brings up for you, what you learn about yourself.
Yeah, true.
That is the key to this. After being out on the street and just talking to people, you learn so much about what your projection is, right? And in life, what are we projecting? What are we actually projecting to one another? What are we selling? Everything's a sale. The way you dress, the way you present, it's a sale. It's a projection of you. What are you selling?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to note too that I can't remember what the number is, but it's something like mid to high 80% of a person's perception of you is made up the minute they look at you. Right? Now let's think about that for a minute. I mean, we all do it. We quickly compartmentalize people into things that make sense for us based on someone's appearance. And that in and of itself is interesting. And everyone does it in all different contexts, right? So you don't really know who you are. Like I'm an immature 53-year-old dresser. I dress very immaturely. I like my Air Force Ones. I like my jeans. I like my T-shirts. And if I've gone to buy a luxury car, I can't tell you how many times I've been ignored, right? Because it's midweek and I'm not in a suit and tie and I'm not wearing shiny Italian shoes, right? It's just my choice, right? But there's a perception that the car dealership makes about my level of affluence, my level of affordability, right? Everyone does this stuff all the time, and we do it on face value. But the minute you stop and listen to somebody, then you start to realize that perhaps your visual perceptions were way off. Now you stop and talk to a homeless person and listen, and maybe your visual perception was, "Oh God, what's that guy doing there? He's going to ask me for money. I just want to look away," right? Or you sit and listen to that person and go, "Gee whiz, most of us are only a few steps away from this, huh? A few bad decisions, a few things going left field, it can happen." We talked the other week about women sleeping rough in cars and, how easy that happens, fleeing domestic violence situations and so forth. But again, remember that making our decision based on our visual perception is the enemy of empathy, right? And I think we need to take that on. And I'd love to hear from you guys in comments on various channels that this gets posted to. What would you need from us? How would you feel comfortable? Try to imagine putting yourself in the shoes of walking up and talking to a complete stranger and thanking them for doing their best right now. What do you feel like you would need to understand, to know? And Scott's actually mentioned some really good things here that I'd love him to make a separate video on that we could post on ihopeyouaresmiling.com.au. And because this is a pay it forward program, I'd love more and more people to get involved. And it does shift your perceptions. And when I first did this thing in Frankston, I was going through a particularly tough personal moment in time. And walking the streets of Frankston handing out socks saved me that week. You know, it made me smile. It gave me something else. It took things away from me and made it about other people. And that was so, so important to me, particularly in that moment of struggle that I had. So love to hear from you guys about what it would take. Are you frightened? Are you scared? Let me tell you, the first couple of times I did it, absolutely petrified. You know, and why was I more comfortable with the homeless guy? Because I know no one else is talking to him. So I'm like a gift out of the box, right? Yeah. So, you know, in a sense, I kind of felt more confident around that guy because I knew that no one else was engaging with him. So be great.
So
To hear from you guys.
I've got to grab that. I've got to grab this, right? Because,
Yep.
and this is where my challenge is to you, Scotty. Like we're going to walk the streets again, right? Try giving something to someone that doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
Right. When you're not selling a pair of socks, you're selling human connection.
Yes.
Right. Those sleeping rough need human connection. They know that. They'll take it. They'll take any time you give. Yeah. Because they want that human connection. That they're happy to embrace in that. Try having that human connection with someone who doesn't need it.
Yeah, that's true. It is hard.
I challenge that. So,
yep.
Do they need it? You know, we've got the CEO sleep outs, right? Which is a fantastic opportunity, right? It's to start the conversation, right? But the next step is to not sleep out together. It's to actually go into the real places and be there. Go into these places and just say, "Hey, I see you." You know.
Yep.
Oh, Scotty, we've gone over time, and I had a lot to say, and about
we could do a part 2, you know, and in the meantime, guys, I'd really encourage you to make some commentary about what we've had to say about this program, some of the challenges, and you know, I will absolutely fully admit that I struggled in the first place, depending upon who the person was, particularly. But this is a fantastic move, and I can testify that what it does for people in that moment has blown my mind. It's because it's such a simple idea of just acknowledgement and respect. And when we think about empathy, that's the beginning, right? That's where we start. So maybe we do a part 2. It'd be great to hear from you guys. Thanks for listening in. Scotty, any final wrap-up comments?
I just want to thank everyone for doing their best right now. You know, like this extraordinary journey called life. It has so many elements, you know, pleasurable, unpleasurable, every one of them valid. So from my heart to yours, thank you for doing your best right now.
Great. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.